maybe we shouldn't talk crap about Jordan Peele movies because I am having all kinds of technical issues tonight that I have not encountered before.
The ghost of the still living Jordan Peele is haunting
yeah.
you.
Welcome back to Bandwagon Fans. This is Jeff.
Hi, I'm Scott.
And we are going to be talking again about the Jordan Peele's latest movie, Us. I say again because we just got through 6 minutes of me not hitting record on the camera.
Can I say that the conversation that we had previous to you hitting record was brilliant?
It was. I
hope we can measure up.
It was absolutely brilliant. Now, with that being said, I want you all to go ahead and take a moment to hit subscribe to this amateur channel and hit that like button for what we said before. Everything we say after now is going to be crap, but the conversation we had before I hit record was absolutely brilliant. So hit the like button for that and leave your comments below. This is a movie that our opinions, I can already tell based on our previous conversation, is going to be different than the consensus. So I'm going to be interested to hear what you had to say about it. And with that being said, go ahead and enjoy a couple more highlights from the trailer.
I didn't know if you were lost. Stick with me, and I'll keep you safe.
There's a family in our driveway.
It's probably the neighbors. But y'all scared of a family? Hi, can I help you?
Zora, put your shoes on.
If you want to get crazy, we can get crazy. What are you people?
It's us.
All right, so this is the movie Us. I'm going to do a quick rundown again. So this is Jordan Peele's latest movie, written and directed by Jordan Peele. This is starring Lupita Nyong'o and Winston Duke, also with a couple pretty fine performances, good performances from the children of the movie, Evan Alex and Shahadi Wright Joseph. And this is a genre-bending horror psychological thriller. A little bit of a home invasion movie, a little bit of a zombie movie, where basically you have this upper middle class, solidly middle class, suburban African American family at a vacation home, and basically their mirror opposites invade the home, and then the rest of the movie is kind of explaining where these people came from and then the consequences of this invasion. So with that being said, a little synopsis out of the way, what was your overall impression of Us?
There were things about the movie that I liked.
Right.
I actually thought the acting was solid.
The acting was really good.
Yeah, acting was solid. Nobody's going to win an Academy Award for acting, but that's probably more the movie.
Right. Yeah. These are actually Lupita Nyong'o has been. I don't know if she won or has been nominated, but she is an extremely good actress.
Yeah, quite good. If you're looking for horror, because if we go down the horror road, I don't think it's going to scare anybody. I'm not sure it's designed to scare anybody. And if it was designed to scare people, it didn't scare me. So.
Yeah, it's and I mentioned it's kind of genre bending. It's not a traditional horror movie.
Right.
There was during the home invasion portion of the movie, which ended fairly early, there was some creepiness. Mm-hmm. Once you get over that initial creepiness, it really wasn't scary at all.
Yeah.
And there's actually a pretty extensive use of a dark comedy to kind of undercut the horror aspects. Now we were talking earlier. The jokes, the comedy kind of fell flat for you.
It did fall flat, which surprises me given the director and the writer, because he can be pretty funny when he wants to be. So
I think throughout the audience, the audience around us responded fairly well to it. There's a lot of chuckles throughout it. I didn't mind it. It kind of worked for me. It was kind of an interesting take on a horror movie, but it wasn't. It's not a comedy. This isn't Shaun of the Dead or anything.
No. And I don't think ultimately that's what he was going for.
No, definitely not.
And that's probably where some of the critique will come in, right?
And where do you think he was going?
I think that this movie is about class.
Yes.
I think it's there's some race commentary in there. You early on see this black family and surrounded in Santa Cruz only by white people,
right?
And I'm sure that was intentional, and just
absolutely intentional.
Like an outdoor carnival kind of thing.
Right.
And they're just and they
a boardwalk. It was at a boardwalk.
Yes, that's right. They were at the boardwalk. And throughout the movie, they are surrounded by white people.
Yes.
And they actually act differently than the white people do. Apparently, like one white family that we see, and then the rest that sort of have havoc wreaked on them. We only see the result, but
right.
It's definitely about being bourgeois, I think.
Yeah. So the message of this movie, well, the actual message of the movie is a little muddled for me, but it's clearly about class, and it's a critique of America and consumerism, and to some extent selling out. And not to some extent, to a large extent, critiquing people that sell out,
right.
Which is partially why the black family often seemed awkward and out of place. Mm-hmm. It was, and that gets into where I had the biggest issue with the movie.
Yeah, the one white family that you meet was just vapid. I mean,
that didn't bother me.
Yeah, and I'm not sure that was a problem necessarily, but they clearly were intended to show where this black family was headed.
Yeah,
or maybe where they landed is a better.
There's definitely a Keeping Up with the Joneses. It's a critique of Keeping Up with the Joneses,
right.
And the white family was the Joneses that the black family was aspiring to be.
Even at one point they said, "Oh, they have a backup generator.
Right.
We don't.
They have a better car.
They have a better car.
White family had a better
the kids
boat.
kind of lust after the car. Yeah.
So everybody in this movie is trying to get something that ultimately doesn't matter.
Right.
Right. And you would think that would be right up my alley of what I would appreciate.
Mm-hmm.
The problem I have with this movie is the framing. So you have this family, the Wilson family,
mm-hmm.
and then you have their mirror opposites, which presumably if you have a middle class, somewhat affluent family, and their opposites
right.
are literally dirt poor, eating rabbits to survive. Monsters from the sewer.
Can we spoil it?
This totally spoil. I should have said that at the beginning.
The premise, which you don't find out until very late in the movie, but you can kind of guess it from early on, is that they have exact opposites. And there's an odd sort of storyline that only kind of gets mentioned once, but that these people were developed in a way because clones may have two bodies, but they share the same soul in this universe.
And they're called the tethered. The people from the underground are referred to as the tethered.
And so if you control the people in the underground, you control the people above. And I think the aim of that was consumerism.
It's consumerism, and it's a classical critique of capitalist society.
Right.
One of the critiques of capitalist society is that poor people, in order to avoid people engaging in class warfare, societies get divided vertically so that there's race warfare. And if you're in a vertically hierarchical society, you can either try to take from the person above you, or you can just be glad that there's somebody below you.
Right.
and in this case, the tethered are the ones at the very bottom of the rung, so that as long as everybody's above the tethered, they'd be happy. But then the tethered, within the context of this movie, the tethered were just forgotten about and just abandoned in these underground tunnels.
Right.
For them to grow up and eat rabbits.
And they are, just for clarification, they are the exact opposites, and they are played by the same actors.
Played by the same actors.
So the actors are beating themselves up,
right?
Essentially.
And they're portrayed as monsters.
Right. They are definitely monsters.
Which means, as the viewer watching this movie, you end up, your point of view, your access to the movie is the elites, and you're rooting for them to kill the poor abandoned people, which is why I say the framing of the entire message, one, became muddled, and two, I would vehemently disagree with.
Yeah, and the big spoiler, right? Can I say the big spoiler?
Yeah. And yeah, go ahead.
Which is my
second issue in the movie.
I think we knew from the beginning. Did we have a pretty good idea that there's a switch?
Yeah.
As there often is when there are two sort of twins. Like the woman, when she's a young woman, she runs into herself in this carnival hall of mirrors.
Right.
And what we don't know until the end of the movie is that she essentially gets switched out. So the messaging of that is the woman in the insane tunnel, the young woman who gets pulled out and gets to be part of the bougie family, wins.
Yeah.
And at the end, she kind of gives a knowing smile, and that's almost the last scene. It's like, I made it out, nobody else did.
Right. And for all 10 of you, okay, I'm going to come back to that point in a second.
Okay.
It just made me, I might actually change my opinion of the movie.
Okay.
Completely. So for those of you that saw Annihilation with Natalie Portman, I know you didn't see it, but there was a very similar thing that happened with Annihilation, where you had like a clone of Natalie Portman, and they were fighting each other, and then at the very end, you don't know who's who. Well, this movie had that same kind of thing, but you clearly knew that the person that we were led to believe, Lupita Nyong'o's character, who we were led to believe the whole movie was the above ground person, was really one of the tethered, and
as a little girl, she got switched.
As a little girl.
Right.
Now, the issue I had with that twist was when you go back and look at the motivations of the characters throughout the movie, they completely fall apart.
It doesn't make any sense.
It makes zero sense whatsoever.
Yes. Totally agree with you on that.
Yeah. However, what you just said, you just made the point that, so the actual characters' names, just so we're clear, we're going to go Adelaide Wilson, which would be Lupita Nyong'o playing the above ground character, and then Red is the tethered girl. She's wearing a red jumpsuit or whatever it is, although they're actually the opposite person. However, so Red, who as a child escaped the tethered and got up to the upper class, she's the only one of the tethered. No, none of it makes sense.
It really falls apart.
I was going to give it credit for a second for saying that she's the only one of the tethered that made it to the next class, and it was a commentary on, poor people sacrificing themselves to make it. But all the tethered made it at the end. They all survived.
Yeah.
So there was no reason for her to be the only.
Right.
So I don't.
There are several things motivation-wise that fall apart. Also, that.
All right. So maybe we shouldn't talk crap about Jordan Peele movies, because I am having all kinds of technical issues tonight that I have not encountered before.
The ghost of the still living Jordan Peele is haunting the studio.
I think before we had to shut everything down, we were talking about how the twist made everything fall apart, and particularly with Lupita Nyong'o's character, all of her motivations just completely fell apart. Anything else?
I mean, the only thing that, in addition, that struck me is that when the switch happened, she probably would have been 6 or 7 years old or something like that, and really played as if she has no memory. Like she has sort of the memory of the other girl, and there's no real explanation for that.
Right.
So
I don't mind a twist ending. I do mind when there's a twist ending. Everything before it still needs to make sense. Mm-hmm. You know, if you go back and you look at The Sixth Sense, when they reveal the twist, you go back and you realize you should have seen it coming.
Right.
With this one, it doesn't make things make more sense. It makes everything makes less sense. And this is already a movie that was pretty hard to follow. So
there's a lot that you have to swallow in order to. If you just want to go on for the jump scares and for the home invasion,
and there were no jump scares.
The one jump scare is like not a scary thing at all. It's like a mechanical owl.
Yeah,
that's the only thing where I kind of went, whoa.
And that's actually when you bring up talking about the way the humor was used. That was actually one of the points because there's 2 points where she has to go into this fun house type thing.
Hall of Mirrors.
And this mechanical owl keeps jumping out at her. And the first couple of times she's kind of scared, but the third time she just crushes it with her whatever she had at the time, or
I think it's like a poker from the fireplace.
Poker. Yeah. So that was kind of what we were talking about, where there's jokes that kind of undercut the horror elements. In that particular case, it was kind of funny because I was getting sick of the owl too. But just overall, this movie, I'm going to be curious to watch other reviews and see why people are giving this a good why people are enjoying this movie.
There was a moment in the home invasion. So imagine that you're sort of the people who are terrorizing you they put you in the house. They've already kind of beaten the dad to some degree. The kids are scared. The mom's scared. She's tethered, handcuffed to a table, and her double explains that she said, you have a shadow character. Mm-hmm. And I thought, this might get kind of interesting, right? And she said, when you were having your beautiful son, I was having my son, and it was, I had to do it all on my own, and it was terrible. And the son has a facial deformity. My daughter, when you were having your beautiful first daughter, my daughter was just turned out just bad. And I was listening to that, and I was thinking, this woman in this situation is making a commentary that may go all the way back to even slavery, where she's saying, you have this bougie life, and it's built on the backs of people who do not have a bougie life, who have a pretty terrible life. And I thought, this is going to move into pretty interesting social commentary, and that was about as deep as it ever got.
That's and you also reminded me of the third issue I had with the film. So one was the way they framed that social commentary made the poor people monstrous, and I despise that. Second was the twist, made everything fall apart, and what little below the movie actually made sense made no sense by the end. And third, there were 2 big, huge exposition dumps because they had to spend about 7 minutes explaining to the audience what the hell was going on.
Because it's so confusing, it doesn't make a lot of sense. So.
Now, earlier I brought up Natalie Portman's movie Annihilation, and there was another movie. So last year there was Annihilation. 2 years ago there was a movie called Arrival with Amy Adams. And I'm going to put this movie in. I hated both of those movies. And I'm going to put this movie in with those 2 movies as. And I'm going to sound really condescending when I say this, but I'm just going to live with myself on this. Sometimes a movie presents itself as being for smart people, and smart people fall for it. And they may not actually understand what the hell is going on, but because it's marketed as being a movie for smart people, they feel like they have to like it. But if you start scratching the surface, you realize that it's more pretentious than actually intelligent or witty. And I think this one falls into that category.
This reminded me, as I was watching this, I was thinking about Thank You for Calling, and how that's what it's called, right? Thank You for Calling.
Which
The movie last year.
Sorry to bother you.
Sorry to bother you.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you for calling. Sorry to bother
it's
you.
right here.
Oh, sorry to bother you. I got thank you for smoking in there somewhere too.
That's
so
I
sorry
love that
about
movie. I actually love both of those movies.
Yeah. And I thought in some ways they were chasing the same demon. I think that Sorry to bother you. It did a better job, but interestingly enough,
much better
there
job.
are alternative universes that coexist in both movies. So in Sorry to Bother You, there's the universe that he finds out about where he's lured by the promise of being bourgeoisie.
Right.
In this movie, they are terrorized. They are bougie, and they're terrorized, and they're actually very they're not horrible bougie people. They're
they're easily relatable. You want to relate to them. You want them to win at the end of the movie, and that's the problem. Because if it's a commentary on society, they should be the bad people.
Right.
Unless this movie felt like it was made by the Trump family, not Jordan Peele.
Yeah.
And so it's this movie was, and maybe I just completely missed something, but it felt like it was punching down.
There was a movie called Funny Games. Are you familiar with Funny Games?
I've heard of it and don't know anything about it.
Yeah, and it was Scandinavian, I think, and then remade scene for scene in the U.S. And it's some people who like horror movies. It's their favorite movie. And spoiler alert on that one is in the end everybody dies. And when you started watching this movie, it was clear to me, like I just made myself a bet. Nobody in the family's going down in this movie. Because they are the Brady Bunch kind of. I mean, they're actually not formulated like the Brady Bunch,
but
they're
the
just too darn,
it was the Black Walton family.
Yes, yeah, definitely a model family. And so I didn't find a lot of dramatic tension in this.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we knew that. I think we knew who was going to come out on top. So,
other than the twist.
Yeah. And
right before we went and saw it, I was prepping this video, so I was reviewing the trailer, and so I knew going into it, I was expecting the scene where the two little girls interact, and the tethered girl chokes the actual Wilson girl.
Right.
And you didn't see that in the movie at all, so I kind of knew something was up. I didn't predict the actual twist, and when it did happen, it was more annoying than anything else. So, but I didn't, and I don't really try to guess twists. I don't care to.
I do.
Yeah, I don't. And
I make bets with myself at the beginning of the movie, and try to do I like to do. I'm 5 minutes into the movie. Can I tell where this movie is going to go and where it's going to end up? And I get lucky sometimes. Most of the time I'm wrong, but
yeah. So I don't know. I think there isn't a whole lot more to say about this. There was a lot of imagery, and if this was a better movie, I would take the time to kind of analyze what the rabbits meant, or the scissors,
lot of
the
homage, right?
But it just at the end of the day, it wasn't like I think you said earlier. You're not going to remember this in 3 days.
So can I ask you one question about
Yes.
it? Hands Across America,
Right.
which plays a pivotal role in this, and I'm old enough to remember Hands Across America, but I don't get it in this movie. I don't get the sort of the point of it in this movie. I mean, clearly, like, we do remember that when she was a little girl, she saw it on TV,
Right.
and then she got pulled into the underground. So maybe that was, just something that kind of stuck with her.
So there was a point where Red, which was actually the original Wilson
Right.
girl, had said that she had planned this for years, and it was to make a statement.
Right.
And the beginning opens up at the very beginning with the Wilson girl before she goes to the boardwalk, before she gets swapped with the tethered, where she's flipping through channels on TV and they're showing Hands Across America. So it was like one of her last memories of her real
Right.
life. And then it ends with her. I guess it'd be her. No, it wouldn't be her achievement.
Right.
Yeah, the above ground, the at the end, the Lupita Nyong'o's character who survives at the end would have absolutely no relationship with Hands Across America.
Right.
But
as a
the
kid,
girl who
like
actually,
that's the memory that she carried into the underground with her.
right.
So I get that.
But she died. The one who actually planned out and carried out the Hands Across America thing would have died. So again, it's just one more thing that just doesn't make a lick of sense.
It certainly, maybe it just went over our heads, but I just think it's really was really confusing.
I was going to say that obviously the Hands Across America thing, in some way represented community and people binding together. The whole Hands Across America was supposed to be about feeding the poor, fighting back poverty, everybody working together. But then again, the people that they were working together against was the family that ended up kind of surviving and riding off into the sunset. They had their hero moment where they go off on their own
in an ambulance.
I don't know. I'm getting kind of frustrated thinking about this movie. Mm-hmm. So we're gonna go ahead and wrap this up.
Yep.
Thanks for watching. I apologize for all the technical difficulties, and go ahead and leave those comments below. And I'm Jeff.
I'm Scott.
Get on the bandwagon.